And it came to pass that the voice of the Lord spake unto my father by night, and commanded him that on the morrow he should take his journey into the wilderness. And we did travel and wade through much affliction in the wilderness.
6 centuries before the birth of Christ, a dramatic pilgrimage was enacted upon the dry, hot Arabian Peninsula. For it was in this area that Lehi and his family spent 8 years on their challenging journey. What would it be like today to follow a route that Lehi could have taken on his journey into the wilderness? We would need to follow a trail 2,500 years old, a trail that lies in a territory now divided among many countries. The primary purpose of Nephi's record in the Book of Mormon is to bear witness of Christ, but his writings do give some clues as to the possible route of their journey. Although we cannot know with certainty the specific locations of these scriptural events, we can perhaps gain a more sympathetic understanding of Lehi's circumstances by trying to retrace the steps of his journey.
For it came to pass in the commencement of the 1st year of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah, my father Lehi, having dwelt at Jerusalem in all his days, and in that same year there came many prophets, prophesying unto the people that they must repent, or the great city Jerusalem must be destroyed. And the Lord commanded my father, even in a dream, that he should take his family and depart into the wilderness. And he departed into the wilderness. And he left his house, and the land of his inheritance, and his gold, and his silver, and his precious things, and took nothing with him, save it were his family, and provisions, and tents, and departed into the wilderness.
We can only guess at the poignant feelings of Lehi and his family as they left behind their home, friends, and possessions, and began their journey from Jerusalem. And they came down by the borders near the shore of the Red Sea. There are 3 major routes from Jerusalem to the village now called Aqaba, which lies at the head of the Red Sea. If he followed the simplest route, he would have gone east from Jerusalem, turned south just before Jericho, and traveled on the west side of the Dead Sea through the Wadi Araba to arrive at Aqaba. A wadi is a dry riverbed often used by travelers, except during the rainy seasons. Once the traveler enters a wadi, the mountains and valleys seem to dictate his route. The Wadi Araba is part of the Rift Valley system that extends all the way from the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon to beyond the Gulf of Aqaba on the Red Sea in the south. The wadi ranges from 3 to 12 miles in width. A portion of the Wadi Araba leads to the Dead Sea. The southern end of the wadi opens into the Red Sea. With high mountains jutting up on both sides, it is a wide, dusty plain, hot in the summer and chilly in the winter. The common means of travel used in Lehi's day were camel and donkey. The distance from Jerusalem to Aqaba is 179 miles. Scholars estimate that groups could travel approximately 24 miles a day in this desert terrain. At that rate, it would have taken Lehi and his family at least 7 days to reach the borders of the Red Sea. Lehi took provisions on his journey, including tents, and probably such food as wheat, flour, barley, dried sour milk, dates, olives, and olive or sesame oil. He probably took a few cooking utensils and simple weapons as well. The Bedouins, present-day nomadic desert-dwelling Arabs, may exemplify the type of life Lehi and his family experienced. Lehi probably carried water and other provisions in goatskin bags, much like those used today by the people of the area. No doubt Lehi already knew the techniques of desert survival or soon learned them by experience and observation. Aqaba, formerly called Ezion-Geber, was the chief city of the ancient desert kingdom of Edom, situated at the tip of the Red Sea. In Lehi's day, this area was a metal smelting and shipbuilding center. Its location made it virtually unavoidable, for anyone traveling between Jerusalem and the Red Sea. But where would Lehi have gone from here? Nephi records the following about their journey.
And my father Lehi traveled in the wilderness in the borders which are near the Red Sea. And he did travel in the wilderness with his family, which consisted of my mother Sariah, and my elder brothers who were Laman, Lemuel, and Sam. When he had traveled 3 days in the wilderness, he pitched his tent in a valley by the side of a river of water.
In the wadis of Arabia, water flows only after a rainstorm. Both modern and ancient maps show that one of the most heavily traveled routes of the Old World, the Frankincense Trail, ran down the coast of the Red Sea. Many ancient wells are found along this trail. One modern map of the route shows 118 ancient water holes with an average distance of 18 miles between them. Lehi may have used portions of this trail. A 3-day journey beyond Aqaba along this route leads to a beautiful oasis in the Wadi Afal, which may be similar to the place Lehi called the Valley of Lemuel. Father Lehi described the Valley of Lemuel as firm and steadfast and immovable. Lehi's family must have spent considerable time in the Valley of Lemuel. Nephi explains that after they had dwelt in a tent and tarried in the wilderness, in the Valley of Lemuel,
we did gather together all manner of seeds of every kind, both of grain of every kind, and also of the seeds of fruit of every kind.
Many spiritual manifestations were given to Lehi in the Valley of Lemuel. It was from here that Lehi's sons were sent on the long journey back to Jerusalem, first for the brass plates, and later for the family of Ishmael. It was also here that the Liahona appeared outside Lehi's tent. The Liahona was a compass provided by the Lord to point the way they should go in the wilderness. Following the directions given by the Liahona, the group left the Valley of Lemuel and went in nearly a south-southeast direction for the space of 4 days to a place they named Shazer. The scene shown here may be characteristic of the type of terrain that Lehi and his family could have encountered at Shazer.
And it came to pass that we did again take our journey, traveling nearly the same course as in the beginning. And after we had traveled for the space of many days, we did pitch our tents again, that we might tarry for the space of a time.
From Shazer, Lehi and his family traveled many days to a place which was called Nahum, an oasis similar to this. It was during this part of the journey that Ishmael died, and his daughters murmured because of their sufferings in the wilderness. Ishmael was probably buried in a lonely grave.
And we did again take our journey in the wilderness, and we did travel nearly eastward from that time forth.
From Jerusalem to Nahum, the course of Lehi's colony had been in a south-southeasterly direction. At Nahum, Lehi's group changed the direction of their journey to nearly eastward. In their travels, they would have skirted the empty quarter, the largest sand desert on earth. Nephi records that after they left Nahum, they suffered greatly.
And we did travel and wade through much affliction in the wilderness, and our women did bear children in the wilderness. And so great were the blessings of the Lord upon us, that while we did live upon raw meat in the wilderness, our women did give plenty of suck for their children, and were strong, yea, even like unto the men, and they began to bear their journeyings without murmurings. And we did sojourn for the space of many years, yea, even 8 years in the wilderness.
If they did follow a route near the empty quarter, it is easy to understand why they suffered much affliction. The empty quarter is barren and treeless, except for an occasional clump of grass or a small shrub. The empty quarter remains today almost totally uninhabited and largely unexplored. During the summer months, temperatures range from 130 degrees during the day to 40 degrees at night. As Lehi's group left the area near the empty quarter, they came to a place they called Bountiful. Nephi's description of Bountiful resembles the place now called Salala Oman.
And we did come to the land which we called Bountiful, because of its much fruit and also wild honey. And we beheld the sea, which we called Iriantum, which being interpreted is many waters. And we did pitch our tents by the seashore. And notwithstanding we had suffered many afflictions and much difficulty, yea, even so much that we cannot write them all, we were exceedingly rejoiced when we came to the seashore, and we called the place Bountiful, because of its much fruit.
On the southern coast of the Arabian Peninsula is a place that meets that description. It is a small area, about 28 miles long and 7 miles wide. It curves around a little bay and is backed by the Kara Mountains. For 3 months of the year, the clouds hunting the sea and cover them with summer fog, mist, and rain. With its significant rainfall, Salalah is the only place along the southern coastline of Arabia that has large trees. Anciently, there was considerable traffic from Salalah because of the frankincense trees, which were native only to this area. Frankincense, an incense resin, was a very important trade commodity used extensively for religious purposes. In modern Salalah, there are large crops of fruit. The slopes of the Kara Mountains are covered with waist-high grass and clumps of the great jumeis or sycamore fig trees. After the monsoon season, the dry grass is often harvested. Honeybees and wild flowers are found in abundance. Some of the jumeis or sycamore fig trees in the area are so large that an average-sized man cannot encircle them with his arms. Most of the trees reach a height of 50 to 60 feet. The wood is very strong, resistant to seawater, and almost free from knots. The jumeis lumber, even today, is used for shipbuilding.
And it came to pass that after I, Nephi, had been in the land of Bountiful for the space of many days, the voice of the Lord came unto me, saying, Arise, and get thee into the mountain. And I arose and went up into the mountain, and cried unto the Lord. And the Lord spake unto me, saying, Thou shalt construct a ship, after the manner which I shall show thee, that I may carry thy people across these waters.
Ancient shipbuilding techniques, many of which are still used today, require much time and effort. Two basic patterns of shipbuilding are common in the shipyards along the Arabian coast. In each case, the builder lays the keel and fastens the ribs to the keel. The ribs are usually made out of tree limbs whose curve provide the desired angle for the ribs. Planks are fastened to the skeleton either by nailing or by sewing. If he uses nails, the builder first drills through the plank and rib with an iron-tipped hand drill, or bores through the plank with a wood auger. Through the hole, he drives a large iron spike with oiled hemp packing wrapped around the shaft under the large head. The spike is then bent over on the inside to cinch the nail in place. In the sewing method, the builder drills a series of holes wherever the planks are joined together, then lashes the planks tightly together with hemp rope. The planks are lashed to the ribs in much the same way. Nephi did not build the ship after the manner of men, but after the manner the Lord had shown him. And after it was completed according to the word of the Lord, they beheld that it was good, and that the workmanship was exceeding fine. Some of the tools used today, like this bow and hand drill, may be like those used by Nephi.
I, Nephi, did make a bellows wherewith to blow the fire of the skins of beasts. And after I had made a bellows, that I might have wherewith to blow the fire, I did smite 2 stones together that I might make fire. And I did make tools of the ore which I did molten out of the rock.
It was a miracle for Nephi, born and raised in Jerusalem, to construct a ship that would take so many people safely on the long voyage to the promised land. Lehi's wilderness journey had come to an end, but he and his family were about to begin another journey, a voyage to a new land, a land of promise, a voyage as challenging as the one just completed.
And it came to pass that after I had finished the ship, the voice of the Lord came unto my father, that we should arise and go down into the ship. And it came to pass, after we had all gone down into the ship, and had taken with us our provisions and things which had been commanded us, we did put forth into the sea, and were driven forth before the wind, towards the promised land. And thus we see that the commandments of God must be fulfilled. And if it so be that the children of men keep the commandments of God, he doth nourish them, and strengthen them, and provide means whereby they can accomplish the thing which he has commanded them. And it came to pass that the voice of the Lord spake unto my father by night, and commanded him that on the morrow he should take
Understanding of Lehi's circumstances by trying to retrace the steps of his journey.
For it came to pass in the commencement of the first year of the reign of Zedekiah king of Judah, my father Lehi, having dwelt at Jerusalem in all his days, and in that same year there came many prophets, prophesying unto the people that they must repent, or the great city Jerusalem must be destroyed. And the Lord commanded my father, even in a dream, that he should take his family and depart into the wilderness.
Could have taken on his journey into the wilderness. We would need to follow a trail 2,500 years old, a trail that lies in a territory now divided among many countries. The primary purpose of Nephi's record in the Book of Mormon is to bear witness of Christ, but his writings do give some clues as to the possible route of their journey. Although we cannot know with certainty the specific locations of these scriptural events, we can perhaps gain a more sympathetic understanding
His journey into the wilderness. And we did travel and wade through much affliction in the wilderness.
6 centuries before the birth of Christ, a dramatic pilgrimage was enacted upon the dry, hot Arabian Peninsula. For it was in this area that Lehi and his family spent 8 years on their challenging journey. What would it be like today to follow a route that Lehi